we discussed about two scenarios. One is basically how we can actually, what is that? Yeah, incorporate any logic you wanted to basically plug in your entire workflow, right? So that's where the examples we also discussed, like triggering an email or creating a follow-on CR, or probably inserting data into some Z tables or somewhere. So wherever, let's say after the workflow, I wanted to trigger an email, or after the workflow, I wanted to create automatically a follow-on CR. Okay. So in those scenarios, how you can actually incorporate your ABAP logic in this workflow, right? So that's where we discussed like this email thing. So where you can add a step for that one. And wherever you want that particular step to be executed, so that you can fill in the single validation table, because it's a step where you wanted to trigger some logic automatically once the previous step is completed. So that's where that qualifies for a background step. And we actually created, I showed you that the baddie. So let me just open this here on under the workflows, rule-based workflow. And we have these four baddies. So first create one service name, and then for writing or plug in any ABAP logic so that you can make use of this particular baddie, write your logic inside this particular baddie and add the service name that you created as a filter criteria over here. Okay. Now, after that, coming back to our workflow process. So you need to call that baddie, right? So that's where actually for that particular step, use the process pattern 02, which is actually meant for calling this system baddie only, but make sure that we basically pass the service name as well, so that system will look up all the implementations of system call baddie. There might be multiple implementations, MMBP, different people will implement. So out of all those implementations, it will only just simply call the implementation where this particular service name is added as a filter criteria. So that's why custom logic will get executed. Okay. So here, in case of system call baddie, you need to link in your workflow through a process pattern. Okay, that means this is the decision table, non-user agent decision table. You will link it up. Okay, so this is one baddie that we discussed. Okay, and after that, this another scenario is where we wanted to determine the agents dynamically, or I wanted to remove if the same request is already created by the same person. The request is created by the same person, and he is part of both requester and approver list. So we wanted to remove him from the approver list for that particular request, because that request created by this same person. But for other requests, he will act as a approver only. Okay, because it has to dynamically identify those agents, right? So that's where actually we discussed about another baddie, that is a dynamic agent selection. So this baddie is replica of your user agentation table. Okay, so in the user agentation table, we fill the data, which is a static data. Okay, so whereas in case of you determine that agents over here and fill in this table, I showed you that the changing parameter CT agent group, there is an internal table. The structure is similar to this one. So you need to pass your agent group, step type, and agent value. So you need to pass this data in the return table. Okay, that is the output of that particular baddie. So that's how actually the same process, create a service name, add that service name as a filter criteria, and then after that, how do you integrate that particular baddie thing to your workflow? So that's where in the single validation table, there is a column called dynamic agent selection service. So at what step you need that exactly, you can actually pass that particular service name over here. Okay, only for identifying at this level, this approver identification should happen through the baddie, and the remaining approvers should happen through the single user agentation table. That also you can do it. Okay, so only for that particular row only, this baddie will get triggered and it will try to look up the agents from this particular baddie. Okay, so that is also another use case that we discussed. So two baddies. So another scenario, let's discuss here. Okay, so far what happens if you notice this particular our decision tables. So these decision tables are generic in the sense there is no object context here. Whether you can fill this data or you can use these tables as is for your any workflow. Like, I mean to say for any object, just this is linked to your change request type. So the change request type can be MMCR type or BPCR type, customer CR type or vendor CR type. Okay, so you don't see anywhere like with respect to either material data or business partner data, customer data. Okay, now I have a requirement saying that, let me, the requirement is, okay, so yeah, let me draw here. So requirement is for, I'm just taking again the material master example. If material type equal to material type, if material type equal to FERT, okay, that is a finished product. Okay, use one step approval process. Okay, if material type is equal to, let's say for example, raw materials. Okay, then use two-step approval process. Two-step approval process. Okay, so based on our knowledge, whatever we discussed so far with respect to change request types and everything, so can anyone give me some solution how we can actually handle this? Just change request type knowledge only. I mean, no need to get into workflows as well. So whatever we discussed the change during the change request type also we discussed that this one. So I just wanted to do a quick recap. So during change request type, I remember you have that answer here as well on this slide. Here also we discussed.
One step means Akshay. One step means like after creating the after the request is created from the requester, it gets final approved, right?
No, one step is it goes to the one step approval process. Like requester submits, it goes to approver one and then activation. Two step means after requester submit. I'm excluding requester step. Okay, from approver one step approver. Okay, so in case of one step approval, you have one approval. Two step approval, you have two approvals, two levels approval.
Then for one step, we need to select that approval. After that final approval, we can finally submit that here, like final check approval.
Yeah, that is fine. Now my question is, so the requirement here is, you have business says all finished products should go for one step approval process, raw materials should go for two-step approval process. This is the requirement that they gave. Now using our change request knowledge, how we can handle. I'm not actually even looking from the workflow point of view. It's very simple. Okay, so yeah, no problem. Let me just answer that one. Create one CR type. Let's say ZMAT01. Okay, configure one step approval process. Okay, take W star 86 workflow and configure one step approval process. That we already done here. Okay, if you remember, we already done. It's a one step approval process only. Okay, for two-step approval process, like for raw materials, create another CR type, ZMAT, YMAT01. Okay, and assign the same 86 workflow, and this you configure it as a two-step approval process. This also we discussed, I think, two-step approval process. See, we added approval to as well. Okay, so is this clear? So it's just like you need to configure those many CR types and assign that 86 workflow. So this combination, this one and this 86 combination, you can configure one step in your decision table. And with this combination, you can configure, you'll have a different set of decision tables. You can configure a two-step approval process. Is this clear? Any confusion here?
Not clear.
Clear, right? It's very simple. Like you need to just configure two CR types. Okay. Now, when user is creating a material, it will show him from the end up from the search application or from when they click on the create material, he will see two CR types. Now, if he chooses the first CR type, it will follow the one-step approval process. If he chooses the two-step approval, this CR type, second CR type, that will follow two-step approval process.
But Akshay, you mentioned as a material type is good, then can be related to the CR type.
Yeah, that's true. So that's where actually we can train them, the user. Hey, if you are creating FERT material type, follow this one. Okay. Or if you're creating this one, follow this one. That is a manual thing. There are at the workflow, at the security role level as well. Basically, we can create two roles. In one role, we will discuss the security roles of maybe after some sessions. So during that time I'll explain. So there is an authorization object where you can actually control the material type, sorry, CR types as well, and material type as well. So in the role you can specify, okay, so this is the CR type plus the material type is FERT. So that is role 1, and the other one is role 2. In role 2, you specify this CR type plus material type is equal to raw material type. Okay, so with this combination, you can prepare another role. So some users will, whoever is having access to this role 1, they always get to use this CR type. Okay, and people who are actually having a role 2, they will get to use this. But there might be some people who can actually have role 1 and role 2. For them, they will be having access to both the CR types.
In the
Okay,
real time,
but there is a
Akshay, this different type of material we need to go for.
that's what I mean. I'm coming there. Okay, but in this, there might be. I mean, there is a one drawback in this approach. So this is one approach I'm saying, but we will further refine this. But if you look at this one, if this is clear, so do you see any gap in this one? Okay, so yeah, the gap is, let's say for example, if you don't handle these roles and everything, right? So user can choose this CR type, but in the backend, he will use the workflow material type as the other material type. Okay, so that could be one possibility. Okay, the other possibility could be probably, not possibility. Basically, this is not a right approach. Yeah, as you mentioned, in real time, we don't actually follow this approach. Okay, because why to create unnecessarily two change request types, two workflows for based on the for two different material types, right? So this is not a sustainable solution or not a better way of handling this kind of requirement. So our requirement is based on the material type, we need to decide one step or two step approval process. Now let's get into how we can actually design this effectively. Okay, so that's where basically, so now see here this decision table. As of now, always the next steps are dependent on your the previous steps. But let's say, for example, if I add here material type, okay. So if I add material type here, okay, so then what happens is, I'll show you. Let me just, okay. So now we added one material type as well here. That means we are bringing your object specific context. That means your object specific attributes are attributes into in your decision tables to take the decision. Earlier, okay, this is my previous step, then this is the next step. So to decide your next step, we are just dependent on your previous step earlier. Okay, if this happens, go here. If this happens, go here, like that. Okay, now I wanted to bring, assume that there is a way I will bring my material type as well also here. Okay, now with this, clue, how do we handle? Okay, that means with this one, you just need one CR type only, one CR type. No need to create multiple CR types. Okay, in this design, it is not sustainable because you created two CR types, and again there is an additional effort from the security side, and there is a chance that the user select this CR type, but in the once he enter into the material screen, he can choose other material type as well. Okay, so that's why this is not a right approach. So that's where actually I wanted to handle using one single change request. So whoever is the user, he will actually select the change request type. Let's say, for example, ZMAT01. ZMAT01. He just selected simply the CR type. Okay. And corresponding to this one, we assigned one workflow, that is 86 workflow. Okay. Now, so in this decision tables itself, we wanted to handle the scenario. Okay. So what I will say here is, let's say, for example, if material type equal to FERT, okay. In case of FERT, it will follow one step approval process. One step approval process means it goes to 90. Okay. And from 90, it goes to your, let's say, for example, one step or two step, right? Okay. I'll copy this because you need to take the bigger one. So the two-step approval process. Okay. So what I will do is I'll just simply copy this. Okay. I'm just taking the two-step approval process scenario. Okay. So let me, this is, sorry, this is not two-step. No, this is a two-step copy. Okay. So this is a two-step approval scenario. So let me remove this. coding. Okay. So now here we'll add material type. Okay. So what I'm saying is here, if it is, what is our requirement in case of raw material, it should go for two-step approval process. Okay. So that means if material type is equal to raw, okay, then so material type is equal to raw, and once the previous step is 00, once user clicks the submit button, then it goes to 90 first. From 90, it goes to A2. A2 is your approval step. So this is fine. Now, in case of, let's say, maybe it's not, maybe not equal to raw material, or if it is a finished good, that means let's something like this. If it is not equal to raw materials, okay, other than raw materials, you wanted to basically take it through one step approval process. So in this case, I'll just take this here. Okay. It should go to one step approval process. Now tell me what should be my next step. So it should go to one step approval process only, not two step, right? So if I say my next step is 90, then in this case, what happens? For 90, it will then after from 90 is your approver one, and in this decision table you have from after approver one, it goes to your approver two. So if you say, let's say one step right, so then if you say your next step as A2, conditional yes 9. Okay. So okay. Now what happens? See, if it is a raw material, then it goes to 90, 90 followed by then it goes to A2, approver 2. If it is not equal to raw material or maybe something else, then this your previous step only. So here itself you are taking the decision not only based on your previous step or submission button, you are also considering what is your material type. So based on this material type, now you are taking the decision your next step should be 90 or A2. That's what how this is how we need to handle.
So here you told like you will be creating two change request types, right?
Yeah,
Even
no, in
though
this case,
in this
I'll
case
create
only
only
one.
one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Either
Yeah.
either that way or this way.
Yeah, either the two CR types are this way, but this is the best approach. Why? Because you are creating only one CR type. So we need when it comes to consolidation, right? Not for every scenario, go ahead and create a separate CR type. So at the end of the day, we will get confused. Users also will get confused. For material creation itself, you will end up creating multiple CR types. So we need to reduce that as much as and incorporate consolidate multiple scenarios into one CR type and handle all the scenarios like this.
Okay. So in that case, creating a new change request type is not a better way of solutioning.
No, it's not like that. We can create new change request types. Okay. But that doesn't mean that you will create. So it's you need to take a call. If this can be handled using single CR type, well and good. Okay. If it cannot be handled using single CR type, then create a separate CR type. That's how we need to trade off.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a very simple, like just if you know how to configure the two-step approval, right? So it is just basically playing around with your current and next steps only. Okay. So but only thing is that we are bringing your object, like it can, in this example, I took you material type, but it can be material group, or it can be for customer vendor account groups are based on country. So it can be anything. So here the idea is how to bring your object specific, or probably how to enhance your decision table with your object specific parameters, your material or any BP customer, those. Okay. Now, if you are clear with this one, so we will go to the system and I'll explain. Basically, here we need to learn how to enhance this decision table. Till now, we are just using the existing columns, right? The standard columns. We haven't enhanced the decision tables. Now we need to enhance the decision table. Okay. So now let's look at how to enhance that one. Okay. So what I'll do is let's create one CR type because I don't want it to touch enhance the existing ones. So what I'll do is simply I'll create one CR type for material master. I think did we already created? I think we already created. Yeah. So ZMAT01, which one we created? ZMAT01, ZMAT01. Let me see if someone actually, okay, ZMAT L01. This, okay. I just wanted to create a brand new CR type for material master, and then we can, I'll show you how to enhance the decision tables. That's what I'm looking. So here we have ZMAT01. Okay, I think this is the one ZMAT01. So for ZMAT 86 workflow is already assigned. Now let's try to configure this one. Okay, so for this, okay, so here configure will be workflow. Okay, so this is the T decision tables. So it's a basically empty. Okay, so now we need to configure all these steps as well. Okay, fine, that's fine. Let me quickly do that. So we need to configure the first steps. So for that one in the workflows, change request steps, I'll choose this. Okay, so I just defined the same steps, one step approval process only. Okay, so basically here you need to configure two-step approval process steps, but that anyway you know how to configure that two-step workflow process, right? So I just wanted to show you how to enhance this one. Okay, so for that one I'm just creating this one. Okay, so before going there, I think when we are discussing about these change request steps, so we discussed how to make entries or how to create the steps here, but these two checkboxes we didn't discuss even. Okay, so basically here key means, okay, so when you're defining this key here, the checkbox key is basically we don't fill this, we'll just keep it blank only. Okay, but the purpose of this one is whether key is mandatory at this step or not. That's what it says. Okay, if you look at that, okay, to change an entity, it's okay. So basically, when you're trying to at this particular step level, if at all you wanted to maintain the data, key is mandatory or not. Okay, so that's what it says. But we always create key will always get generated. We derive everything through keys only. So I don't know exactly why SAP mentioned this one, the exact reason, but we don't actually use this one. We don't touch this one as well. But the significance is whether in what cases key will be optional. I'm not able to find any use case. So key should be there. So, but this says that a key can be, you can make it optional or mandatory key for this one. That is actually, I don't know exactly, I didn't make sense to me, but I'll see if I can get some example or some actual use case for this one. But the other one validation is important, this one. Okay. Okay. So now what happens is, okay, so whenever you get any doubt, right? So just do an F1. So especially these configurations, SAP provided a very good documentation. Okay. Now what it says, best, okay, to complete this step, okay, 90 step is there. Okay, so 9 should be prerequisite for the subsequent actions in the change request step. Okay, so basically to complete this 90 step validation, it should pass through all the validations. Okay, which means if we in the next topic we discuss about that, in the data quality topic we discuss about different type of validations, derivations and everything. Okay, but this one says if you define certain validations, certain checks, okay, it should pass through all the checks, then only this step can be completed. Okay, so if let's say if there are some errors are there, this step cannot be completed. Okay, so successful validation is required to complete this particular step. So that's what actually here it says. So where exactly it will helpful?
Can we use for 00 step for this checkbox?
Yeah, you
Before
can use
submitting
it
the
for zero
request.
zero. You can use it for 00 also, no problem. Okay, but why, in what case this will be useful is, let me show you one scenario here that you can actually use it for any step. Okay, so requester, approver 1, you have approver 2, and then activation, and then your workflow will be completed. This is your 99 step workflow complete step. Okay, now what happens? Assume that there are some 20 validations for every material or customer or vendor that I create. Let's say you configured there are 20 validations, including your own custom validations from standard SAP. Also, it will go run through some validations. So everything, there are 20 validations are there. Okay. Now you remember we in the change request stepwise configuration, we have a flexibility where you can actually bypass some certain checks at certain step. Okay, so at 00 step level, you bypassed all these checks, which means requester can submit the data, whatever the data he has with him, he can submit the data. There won't be any validations will get executed. Okay, that means you are bypassing the validations at this level. Now go to at A1 level. At A1 level, for certain entities, you are running the validations, which means only 10 validations got executed here. Okay, and again at A2 step level also, Either if you bypass or maybe if you run validations only for certain entities, assume that the same 10 validations got executed here and here. Okay. Now after this, there is no user intervention. It directly goes to activation step. Irrespective of your configurations at stepwise configuration, at activation step, system will run all the 20 validations. Okay. If at least one validation get failed, your change request that at this will return activation failure. Activation failure. Okay. If everything passes, it will return activate success. Okay. So which means it will get I mean your workflow process will get ended into a work error state or probably activation failure. Of course, you might be handled. It will go to approver 2. And even if approver 2 again approve that one also, it will repeat it. So because we are not doing all the validations. Okay. So in this case, you can ensure that your approver, the last step, okay, there you select that validation checkbox, which means this step will be completed only when all the validations are performed successfully and there are no errors. So what that means, that's what I said, even in the stepwise configuration also, you have a flexibility to run the validations at different steps, but that doesn't mean that you can skip all the validations and directly go to activation step. System doesn't create that material. Okay. So in this case, as this is the last chance where you can run all the validations. So that's where actually you can actually keep that validation checkbox at your 91, whatever is your final activation step, that you can actually select this one. So that is one of the use case where it will helpful. Okay. Is this clear to all?
Yeah. In the configuration, we have next step is 90. Here we need
It's
to
a
mandatory.
information. Yeah, it's a information. Let me show you on the screen. Okay, if you're creating a material, okay, I'll choose something. It's a new feature SAP added recently in the last release or something. So here you will have a as an information one. What is the next step? Okay, so okay, here what's next? Okay, so when you click on this, it will read the information from there. See, it is showing as a current step is this one, next step is 90, just as the information purpose only. Okay, so that's what right here. The next step for 00, next step is mentioned as 90. So it will read this information and just show it as a FI kind of thing, FI information purpose only. Okay, so if this is fine, coming back to our this scenario. So basically, I'm creating this workflow for this ZMAT01. Now I don't maintain all the entries for just for your understanding. Let me maintain few quick steps over here. Okay, so this is okay. In fact, I wanted to show you one more thing. Without making all these entries as well, you have an option to upload and download. That's another feature. Let me show you. Okay, so we already created this for, let's say, Z is it there at L01. Okay, that's fine. We created our CR type, right, for our object ZP11. Continue. So those similar kind of entries are already there in our decision table, right? So all these entries are already there in our decision table. Okay. So now what we can do is you can actually download this. See, there is an option to export to Excel. Okay, so the steps are matching for the material, whatever that I just created. I just copied the same steps only. So that's why I can export this to Excel. Okay, so this got downloaded into, okay, so this is the decision table. It got downloaded. Now I'll take this here. Let me paste it here. Okay, so now this is my new CR type, ZMAT01. So we created one workflow for our custom object. So the decision table I downloaded. Now I want, because my workflow scenario is same. Okay, so I wanted to use the same decision table here as well. Now I wanted to upload that here. Okay, so when you are uploading the decision table over here, few things that you need to remember. First, copy this name. Okay, ZMAT-L01. So use the same name here in your after downloaded, right? Replace the old CR type with the new CR type. Okay. Even if you open this, okay. So this is the decision table that we just downloaded. Okay. In the sheet name also. So replace the old CR type with the your actual new CR type, ZMAT01. Fine. Okay. So this is done. Now, let me close this. When I'm trying to upload, so because now you see the columns, right? In your old decision table that we created in the previous sessions, we hide some columns over here. So that's why you see only these columns are there. Okay. Whereas in your new material CR type, the columns sequence is not matching. Previous step, previous action. After that, change request priority is there. But in this case, we hide that change request priority, right? So now the columns name should match. So because I already downloaded, so when I try to upload, system will actually upload this condition column in the third column here. See, the third column is change request priority. So that's why what you can do is just try to keep the same sequence here. Okay. Whatever I put that hide mode, right? So I'll keep the same thing hide here as well. Okay. Change request priority, then change request reason, parent step and agent group. Okay. So now let me save, activate. Okay. So now the column sequence is also matching. Now I can upload that whatever I downloaded earlier from the other CR type, that entries I can upload over here. Okay. So you can always click on, okay. You in the additional actions, there is something called import from Excel. So select this. Okay. You can browse the file to desktop. So this is the decision table. Okay. Override expressions, you can actually select this checkbox. See, it automatically came. You don't need to again make all those entries. This is again another advantage where you can upload, download. If you create the decision tables, fill the decision tables. So usually where it will be helpful is in the project. So we create a workflow for one CR type, let's say material create CR type. Okay. Now, all other CR types also follow the same kind of one-step approval, like change material, change customer. So create customer, change vendor, create vendor. So you have some 10, 15 other objects for, for all of them, you are having the same kind of workflow process, one-step approval process. So you create it for one, download it, and then change those CR type, the workflow file name and sheet name, and you can upload for other CR type. Okay. So you don't need to build everything. So that saves a lot of time. Okay. So that is what this one. Now I have this particular CR type. Okay. We all automatically, we already filled this data. Now the next, our intention is how to extend this column, basically how to bring your material type field over here. So first we need to extend this, right? So for the extension thing, just observe what I'm doing here. So you can go to this BRF application. Okay. Go to CR type related application. Here, there is a tab called content objects. Of course, I have a document that explains this step-by-step process, right? So I forgot to share that document details to support team, but after this session, I will share the details. Okay, but it is there how to enhance this one. Okay, so I'll show you once this is completed. Okay, so in the BRF application, CR type related, go to content objects, and in the drop down, you can actually create one variable that is nothing but data object. Just like in ABAP programs, you declare some variables, right? So here we are actually creating this variable. Okay, I'm just creating one data object. Okay, so here, then here when data object I wanted to create, that means basically here I wanted to create one variable. So here you have different type. You wanted to create a variable or structure or table. In our case, the idea here is first I wanted to create one type as material type, declare one variable of material type, and then add that material type as a column over here. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So here you need to specify whether what you wanted to create. I wanted to create a variable, right? So then it's not structured table, it's a straightforward simple variable. So you can choose this element. Okay, after that, click on edit. Basically, you need to get into edit mode, data object, element, and then create object. Okay, so provide some description to your element. So I'm saying here material type. Okay, so material type. Sorry, this is the material type. So we need to provide some name. So I'll say ZMTART. So I'm just creating one variable over here. This is the description of the variable. Okay. Now when you're creating, just like you need to provide the data type, right? So here in the DOM, you have an option that no binding. When you say here no binding, it will take like a there is no, let's say for example, when you are declaring a variable, if there is a standard data element, you use the standard data element. If there is no standard data element, you declare it as a char 10, char 11 or whatever you think, right? So that's what here. So if you don't specify anything, it will create a character of 255 characters, or you can change this to maybe 5 or whatever you want. Okay. Other option is if you already know there is a standard data element is available. So here you say bind to DDIC element. Okay. So bind to DDIC element. Then it asks for your data element. I'll say we know for the material type it is MTART, right? MTART. Yeah. MTART. Okay, so MTART is for material type. So I just mentioned material type MTART. Click on OK. So it automatically binds to the data element and your length and everything will get adjusted. The advantage you get with this one is on this decision table, when you are maintaining the material type values like this, okay, raw material not equal to raw material like this. So you get an F4 because to this data element that the value table is linked, right? So you get an F4. So that's the advantage, and it always recommended to, if there are some standard data elements are there, always it's recommended to use the standard data elements. Okay. So you just mentioned this one and create and navigate to object. Okay. So this is the object which we created. Okay. So the object you can see in the top, this is the variable name, the description, and in the down you see the data element and all that stuff. Once you create this variable, save, activate. See here it got activated successfully, which is fine. Okay. So the next thing is we just declared a variable. Now let me tell you one thing. In ABAP, you have one function module. Okay. Now in this function module, you need to write some logic based on certain variable. Okay. So this variable value is coming from the external somewhere else. Okay. So in this case, what you do first, you declare the variable. Then in your function module signature also, you have the parameters, right? In the parameters, you need to select this variable is also part of this function module scope, right? So basically in your function module, you will declare what is your importing parameters, right? So those importing parameters you will use inside that function module. The same way, so once you declare that particular variable, the next thing is we need to bring this into this scope. Basically, where is this? Yeah, you need to bring into your 3 decisions table scope. For that one, there is something called here trigger function. Okay, so there is something called function to call. Okay, here in the signature part, you need to add all other your whatever the columns that you see in the decision tables, those are already part of this particular signature. What is missing is your new variable that you just created, that also you need to bring into this particular signature. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that one. Click on edit. Okay, so then add existing data object. So we created already in the previous step the data object. Now I wanted to add that into this particular function scope. Okay, so click on this add existing data. So here you have 2 options. You can search with the name or text. Name is your variable name. So we know the variable name is ZMTART. Okay, you can search like this. Okay, you see it is showing what are the variable that you created, or you can search with the text as well, material type. Okay, so you can just, once you find that element that you just created, click on OK. So now see here, there is that it got added in the DOM. See, this variable got added in the DOM. Okay, so now this step is required. We wanted to bring this new variable also into this particular scope. Creation of the variable is not enough to add that one. So first create, then add into this scope, then save and act. Okay, we added it, right? Okay, save and activate. Okay, so once you add it into scope, the next step is very simple. In which table you wanted to add that newly created material type, go to the decision table. Okay, edit table settings. Okay, in the table settings already it shows some columns. Now the new column you need to add. Okay, so you can add the new column either into result or into your condition columns. What is the difference between condition column and result column?
Based on the condition column, result will be derived.
Okay, very good. So now where should I add my material type? In condition or result column?
Condition.
Yes, because based on the material type, we wanted to take the decision. What is your next step? So it should be part of your condition column only. Okay. So you can just always simply click on this insert column.
Hey, you know, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features: bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
From context data objects, okay, here you can search with the name ZMTART. Okay, so ZMTART. Just simply add this. Okay, your material type got added. Now, if at all you wanted to bring this material type towards the first as a first column, just select this and move it up. Okay, now click on OK. Save, activate. Now you see, we see this material type field also part of your decision table. Okay, so now you can actually have here, let's say if material type equal to FERT. I'm just I'm taking some example just to show you the usage. So material type is equal to, if previous step is 00, if requested submitted, and if material type is this one, it goes to 90 step. Okay, so let's add one more. I'll copy paste this. Okay, here you can say something like this: if material type is not equal to FERT. Okay, so here you can say your next step as, let's say for example, instead of, because I copied one step approval process, so what scenario we can build is, you tell me with this one, what is the scenario, how it works basically with this one?
Auto approval.
Auto approval. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so what happens if material type equal to FERT, it goes for the 90 step approval step. If it is not equal to FERT, it goes to the auto approval scenario. Okay, so accordingly for auto approval scenario 91, condition alias is 2. Okay, so something like this you can build a scenarios. So this shows the usage, how you can actually extend your decision tables with your object specific information. Okay, we have more things to discuss on this one, but now, yeah.
Yeah, that condition is 2 is already given, right? So we need to give 9, right, at that price.
Okay, so yeah,
yeah.
good observation. Let me show you here. What happens is, let's say for example, yeah, here only I'm just okay. So if, see, the thing is that here you can have always unique condition aliases for each row, one unique number, or else now you see here in this example, in both the cases it goes to A2 only, right? For A2, that means if it is a auto approval if it is not equal to scenario, here it goes to A2. If it is a equal to raw scenario, after approver one, it goes to A2. But in both the cases, it is going to A2. When it is referring, in both the cases, it is going to A2. That is reference one step only. So you can also have the same condition alias, because let's say here, if you have like this, what happens for A2, the 9 condition alias, your agent is already determined here. It will get determined over here. Though you have here separate number, a unique number, let's say 10 number, here you need to keep it like this. Okay, what I'm saying is, let's say if you put 10 here, then also you need to keep something like this, right? It's the same. Whether you keep the same number because it refers the same step, or else have 2 different unique numbers. But anyway, you club it here, because in both the cases you need to identify the agent. For that agent, ultimately it should go to here only, right? So that's why that is also another way. I didn't mention earlier because you will unnecessarily get confused. So for making it more simple, earlier I mentioned that let's have unique numbers as condition aliases for every row. But some places you can actually merge also, depends on if the step is same. Is that clear? Or
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a very simple. If your steps are same, wherever you are referring A to here, let's say for example, you are referring 90 here, here also 90. Okay, so 5 and 6 you can keep one common number, because based on this for 90, right? So for 90 means here also you have 90, right? So you can have same one in both the cases. So I no need to have 5 and 6. Here also you can keep one only in both these things. So ultimately for 90 step, it will take the conditional yes and it will look into this agent. Now see here for 1 also I'm referring the same agent. For 5 and 6 also you are referring the same agent. So that's why, so you can also, if you understand this, what I'm trying to say, you can follow this approach as well. But just to make it very simple and clean, you can have unique numbers also. Okay. So here, so this is how you can extend your material, anything. I mean, I just showed example as material type, but it can be in case of customer vendor, it will be mostly account groups. In case of material master, it will be material type or material group. Okay, so likewise, you can enhance your decision tables as well. Okay, now what happens is with this one, you are actually okay if user selects on the UI. Okay, that means on this UI, if user selects material type FERT, okay, if for FERT it says where should it go, but how do you know what is the value that user selected for that CR on the for this particular CR on the UI? Okay, so that we don't know, right? Here this is a static value. If material type comes to take the next step, decide your next step. But at runtime, when I'm creating a materials, what value I need user enter, that value you need to read it. Basically from the change request, you need to read this value of this material type value, and you need to compare that value with these two things, whether it is FERT or not FERT, right? So to read the data from change request and do that comparison, for that one, SAP provided one baddie, that is the third baddie. That baddie is context preparation baddie. That is a context preparation baddie. So what happens in this baddie, you can read the change request data. Okay, and this is a variable. Now you see this material type is a one variable which we created. Okay, so let me show you here. Okay, so content object. Okay, if you go to the data, okay, so this is what we created. Now this is a variable. Okay, every variable in, let's say in BRF application, has one unique ID. The ID of this is the ID. Okay, this is the variable name and this is the ID. So what we need to do is inside this particular baddie, inside this context preparation baddie, what we will do is we will read that the material type value from the CR and pass that value to either to this variable or this ID. Okay, inside that particular baddie, we need to do that one. Okay, so once you pass the value to this particular variable inside that particular baddie, I'll show you, we have that logic as well. Okay, so if you pass that one, system will take at runtime whatever the value is populated in this variable, that value will be compared against this particular decision table. Against this particular decision table, it will compare. If the variable is having FERT material type, so system will compare that FERT with raw. Okay, it is not matching. Then it will go to the next row. Here it will compare. Okay, this is satisfying that condition. FERT is not equal to raw. Then from here it will determine, okay, next step is A2. What are the next step? Sorry. Okay, so basically inside that particular baddie, we need to read the CR data, read that particular variable, the value, and pass it to this particular variable. That's it. That is the last step that we have to do. Okay, so I'll show you how to implement that the same thing. So first, as usual, we need to create one service name. Use the underscore context. Okay, I just created one service name. So go to this rule context preparation. Okay, so now there is a sample example is also SAP provided. Okay, now in this example, what SAP has done is, instead of extending this particular decision table, the use case that they took is here, user agent decision table. Okay, because when it comes to the decision table extension, the same approach you can follow for to extend either your user agent decision table or single value decision table, or non-user decision table, anything you can just enhance this, just the way how we have done. Okay, now in this example, the use case that SAP provided, right? In that example, what they are doing is based on this laboratory value. So there is a labor column in material, just like material type. There is a labor column in Mara table. Okay, so I'll show you here. Even you'll have this on the UI as well. So where is that? Yeah, lab office. Okay, so based on this particular lab office, it goes to different approvers. Okay, so the example that they took, basically, let's say for example, lab office. Okay, so for the approver one only, okay, if lab office is equal to 1, okay, so conditional yes remains same. Okay, and lab office 1, it goes to, let's say for example, some same step type user. Okay, let's say it goes to SAP user 2. Okay, if lab office not equal to 1, it is going to the other user ID. Okay, so just like the way how we have 1 step or 2 step based on this one, you can also build this kind of scenario, like reading the data from your CR, the lab office value, and fill this variable in the decision table. That's it. Okay, so we'll see how that logic is built. The same, you need to just replace the lab office with the material type. That's it. Okay, so I'll just copy this sample example, so that we can go through the code. Okay, so as usual, add that filter value. Service name is equal to z context. Okay, so I just added. So ensure that always you follow this approach. Add your filter. You can add multiple filters also. Maybe for 2-3 scenarios, you wanted to run the same logic. Just add one more filter as a condition. See, you have these conditions, right? So filter value can be anything. Okay, either this name, service name is equal to this one, or service name is equal to something else. So you can play around adding multiple service names as a filter. Okay, so once this is done, now let's look at this logic. Okay, so this logic also will helpful now for you if you go to this context preparation method. Okay, so now what they are doing is, you, for all these baddies, whatever we discussed, the 2 baddies, system call baddie, agent, dynamic agent preparation, and this context preparation, you get your change request as a importing parameter. Okay, so the change request number. So using the change request number, you can read the entire CR data, any attribute, you can read it. Okay, so that's what you can see here. So they're passing this number. They created another method inside the same implementation, read material, and they're passing this change request number, and they're getting the material structure. So this is your type 1. So the lab office is part of your type 1. Lab office is part of your, this is the basic data, right? It's a part of your type 1. So they are passing this one and getting that entire material type 1 structure. So it will return you, this structure will contain whatever you see under the basic data. So all these attributes you will get it. Okay, all these attributes. This is a PP structure. You see here, this is a PP structure. That is, this represents your type 1, the entity structure. Okay, so now you can refer inside this method how they are reading. They are using some APIs, change request MDG API, to read char value, especially to read that particular entity data. Okay, so once you get this data, so what they are doing is get element ID. So this element ID is also what they are doing is, they created this labor as a element over here. Okay, so that is nothing but this, just like MTART, they created a labor. Okay, so we need this object ID. So how do we get this particular? Don't hard code this object ID anywhere. What you can do is, they written some reusable method over here. Okay, you can open this method and see how to read object ID for if you pass your name. That means in this, inside this method, what they are doing is, if you pass your variable name, it returns this particular ID. That's what they are doing. Okay, so pass your name over here. Okay, along with your change request type. Okay, then it returns the BRF expression ID. BRF expression ID is nothing but this ID only. Okay, because why? Because in the return, you need to fill the value to this ID only. Okay, so once you got this expression ID over here, okay, so there is they're returning, this is your expression ID. So this table, this is the return table. inside this return table, you can fill as many as like this kind of variables. Okay, what you need to do is you need to pass the ID and the corresponding value. So to this one, ID and value. So this is the structure. If you look at this LS context, so it has this structure. It always has BRF ID and value. ID and value. ID is nothing but this ID only, and value is whatever you read from the material entity. Okay, so now here you got both the things. So you have your where is that LS material. So the labor value or material type, whatever may be, that value will be here, and the ID you are getting over here. Okay, you're getting the ID over here. So now simply the ID they're passing over here, the value that you got is they're passing the value over here. Ultimately, this structure they're returning it. That's it. So these reference examples that SAP provided for each of these badges are very, very useful. Is this clear to all of you? Of course, this code anyway, if you have MDG system, you can always do some dummy implementation and copy the sample piece of code, and you can refer this logic. But here the idea, what we are exactly doing inside this particular body is important. It can be you can read material or material type or customer vendor or anything from your CR. All you need is a change request number to read any attribute from the CR, and how to read the IDs, BRF expression IDs, by passing that name, variable name, and get the ID. Then you can just simply fill this particular data. Okay. So now we fill this data as well. Okay, so that is also fine. Now data we also fill. Now then there is one last thing you want me to get into inside this method.
Because they're passing just the change request type, right?
Yep, CR type, they are actually IVCR type. This is a standard BRF application. How you can actually read this one. But okay, let me look at CR. Okay, they need that application ID, right? So because I'll show you here. If you look at this one, this decision table, everything, this is the application name.
Correct.
USMD SSW C underscore ZMAT01. Okay. First, because this variable should be part of like this, there might be many applications are there. So they wanted to exactly read that ID from this application. So how do I get this application? That's why they need the CR type. So based on the CR type, they are actually getting that application ID. So this application ID is nothing but somewhere you will be having. You go to this application, so they are getting this one. Okay, so this is your application name, this is the application ID. So first they read this. Now inside this they read the MTRT or whatever that variable that you created.
But there from our change request type we have only GMAT01, right? Not the, so the rest all is the constant value it will consider.
Sorry, can you come again?
The BRF application SMD SSWCATA underscore our CR type. Right. So for each and every CR type, whenever we create this rule configuration, so will it have the same one? Because there we are passing only the CR type, right? Not the application name.
No.
Complete application name.
See, first thing is, let me tell you here. You create CR type 1. Okay. So this CR type you assign W star 86 workflow. With this one, it will generate one application that is USMD some star. The ending is ZMAT01. That is nothing but your CR type 1. Is this correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. This will have one BRF ID1. Okay. Now I create another CR type 2. Here also I'll assign this one. Okay. And here it will generate this application CR with CR type 2. Okay. So this is different and this is different. Both are two separate applications. It will have its own ID, let's say ID2. Okay. Now under this application, I created MTART. Okay. Now under this application also, let's say, for example, I created ZMTART. Okay. It will have one ID, let's say ID2. And here also it generates some ID2. Okay. Now when if at all I wanted to read this value, this expression ID, first I need to know what is this. under which application I need to read. So that's why if I pass my CR type, it will return me this application. From now, under this application, I can read any IDs, any variables. Okay, if you look at this code, what they're doing is there is a class get CR type app ID. So when you pass your change request type, you get the application ID. This application ID is nothing but this ID, either this ID or this ID. Okay. So once you get your application ID, okay, then rest everything is like how to read that individual variable within that application. Is this clear? Okay. So now the next question is, what are the things that we have done so far? Just a minute. Okay. So first, step 1, we created a variable. Okay, that is ZMTART. Okay. Then second, we added in the function scope. Okay. What is that function scope? Here. Okay. So we went to this call function here. Okay. In the signature, we added that variable, ZMTART. Okay. Third step, enhanced your decision table, any decision table. It's not necessarily single value. You can enhance with wherever you see a need additional condition from the object, you can make use of this one. Okay. Enhance the decision table, single value, user agent, non-user agent. Fourth, implemented baddie. All this is fine. Of course, we created a service name and all that stuff. Okay. But here the main focus is we implemented a baddie. Now the fifth and last step, how to integrate, because this baddie has to execute, right? This baddie has to execute, just like in case of system call baddie, we are calling that baddie through the process pattern. In case of user agent or dynamic agent baddie, we are adding that in your in the single validation table here. Now the same way, I need to link somewhere this particular service name. Through service name, I need to integrate in my decision table, right? So that how it will happen is basically, okay. So that linkage, especially for this particular baddie, context preparation baddie. So the linkage will happen like this. Okay. So there is something called not at any decision table level. Okay. It will be always, especially that context preparation baddie, the service name you need to always assign it over here. Okay. So here you can go to edit service name equal to, here you can add this service name, context preparation service name. Only the context preparation service name can be added over here. Okay. That means it is much above, not at any single decision table level. Why? Because you might be enhancing single validation tables, user agent decision tables, non-user agent decision tables. Okay. To handle different requirements. So this particular baddie, when I click on submit button, every action you do on the UI, I click on a submit button. First, when you click on submit button, what I said is system will come to the single validation table. Okay, submit is completed. What is the next step? Before that, from submission and a single validation table to identify the next step, in between this baddie, the system will look up the service name, and if there is a context preparation baddie is there, it will execute that baddie. So why? Because once it executes that baddie, inside that particular baddie, you might be having multiple variables. Those variables you are using across these decision tables. So all those variables will get updated, because if that baddie logic that gets triggered, right? So all those variables will get updated so that you will have the right values when you are running your decision tables. Okay. So that's why we are not linking to any specific baddie, especially that context preparation baddie has to be linked at this level. Okay. Is that clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is about context preparation. So yeah, you need to remember like where all these, because each baddie is meant for different purpose, right? So let me save this. Okay. So we discussed about context preparation, all the steps. Okay. But that linkage should happen at the place where I showed you here. Okay. At this level. Okay. Similarly, we discussed about system call baddie. Okay. And this will be linked in through the process pattern. Dynamic agent, the linkage will happen at your single validation table level. Okay, so these are the three ones that we discussed so far, and the purpose is also same. It's not like you can, for the same requirement, you can use any of the baddies. So the purpose and everything is same for these three different baddies. Okay, now the next baddie that we have is parallel agent, parallel result workflow baddie. So that means basically we have that parallel workflow. So earlier in the change request type level, we discussed about the parallel CR, that is creation of multiple CRs for the same object. Here, parallel workflow means within a same workflow, I wanted to create a parallel work items so that these work items can be assigned to parallelly to different agents. So far we are discussing is a sequential workflow. So once approver 1 completes, then only it goes to approver 2. Okay, so with this one, the drawback is, let's say if there is no dependency between approver 1 and approver 2, but still approver 2 has to wait until that approver 1 is completed his activity. That consumes some time, right? So that's where you can, how efficiently you can build this workflow. If you make it two parallel, like once the requester submits, it goes to approver 1 and it also goes to approver 2 parallelly. Okay, in that case, both will take the decisions. They can, like, let's say for example, requester, you have approver 1, approver 2. Okay, so parallelly both the two work items will be created and it will submit to both the teams, and approver can take some action, approver 2 can take some action. Based on this action, we can take the result, a consolidated result, if it is approved or if it is rejected. Let's say after that we can take a call. We should go to either activation step, or we should send it back, or if you have something in between steward, you can actually basically you can move it to the next step. Depends on this both the actions. Okay, so that is what the parallel workflow. Here you have one CR type only, one workflow only, but within the workflow it will create a parallel threads to parallel work items to different people instead of going is a sequential. So that's the idea. So there also we have another baddie which we will use. So before going there, first we wanted to understand the scenario. Okay, so the scenario is, let me first draw that one. Okay, so let's say requester clicks on submit button, then it goes to approver 1 parallelly to approver 2. Okay, from approver 1 and approver 2. So here the decisions can be, okay, so let's say for example, approver 1 can approve or reject. Similarly, approver 2 can approve or he can reject. Okay, so now what we do here is basically we need to consolidate. So here what happens, let's say if both approved, okay, if both are approved, I wanted to move it forward. Okay, so that means if both are approved, basically what we do is we will consider this as a approval scenario. Okay, it is a approver scenario. Okay, it's an approver scenario. I will move it to the next step, approve scenario. Okay, this occurs only if both are approved. Okay, if at least there is a rejection, okay, the rejection can happen because maybe approver 1 approved but approver 2 rejected, or approver 1 rejected or approver 2 approved, or both rejected. That means in all these three scenarios, the common is at least there is one rejection. If at least there is one rejection, you can consider this as a rejection scenario and you can send it back. Okay, now where this decision should happen, see, approver 1 can command, he can click on approve. Approver 2 can command, he can take action, approve, right? But somewhere you need to take the decision. You need to take the responses of both this, and then you need to take a decision whether I should consider this as approval scenario or else rejection scenario. Okay, so that's where actually here SAP provided one baddie. Okay, so this particular baddie, this once both took the decision or action for their work items. Okay, no matter, let's say if you have 3 or 4 parallel work items. So based on those work items, if all the work items, the decisions are taken, then finally the result come to this particular baddie. Result in the sense all the responses. Okay, if 2 approvers are there, so both are approved, here to as a you will get the responses to this particular baddie, approve and approve, or approve, reject, or reject, approve. So you get the response, all the responses to this baddie only when all the approvers are the ones, the last approver approves. out of all these parallel approvers. So all the approvers took some action on their for their work items. Then all the responses will be sent to this baddie. Inside this baddie, I will write the logic depends on my business requirement. Business says that if at least there is one rejection, consider this as a rejection scenario. If business says that at least, if there is no rejection, consider this as an approval scenario. Okay. So likewise, I will process that response. The output of this particular baddie will be either approve or reject. The baddie output will be either approve or reject. If the baddie returns approve, so it will move forward. If baddie returns reject, it will go back. So this next step can be either your activation step, or it can be your maybe steward or some other approver 3 or some other step. From here, it will go to the workflow complete 99 step. Is this clear? Yeah. Is this clear to all of you? Any confusion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So in previous case, if you compare the old scenarios or previous scenarios, in this place, you have one single approver. Now you have two parallel approvers. That's the only thing. So even in case of single approver also, what happens? Approver approves, the output will be either approve or reject. Now the same, I am from this particular, once the approver takes some action, the outcome will be a single action only, either approve or reject. Now here also, no matter how many approvers you have, okay, so ultimately all the responses will come to this particular baddie, and inside this particular baddie, I will process the responses. I will send the output from programmatically from this baddie. Consider this as approve case or reject case. That's it. So it's very simple. Okay, right? So this is what that single value, the parallel approval scenario, and we'll get, I'll show you. Yeah, please.
If one approve, in this case only, there are 3 approvers, okay? 2 of them approved and one still didn't submit his response. Like he didn't approve nor reject. So in that case, should we consider the third? How to consider that case in this baddie?
Yeah, in that case, what happens? That baddie will never get triggered. The baddie will get triggered only A3 also takes some action on his work item.
Okay, all the responses were submitted by all the approvers only, it will be triggered.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why to that particular baddie, all the responses, the baddie will get executed once the last response or all the responses are done. Then you will get that the baddie will get executed, and all these A1, A2, A3 responses will be sent to this particular baddie.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So if you understand this one, right? Okay, fine. So that the scenario we will see in the system, because the decision table looks little complicated and we already discussed many things. So I just wanted to look at this scenario with a fresh mind. So we'll discuss how the decision table look like, how the baddie logic look like, and everything that we'll see. I just wanted to give some introduction about this, how this parallel workflow works, that we will see. Okay. So meanwhile, I will complete a few other small things in the change request. Okay. So we actually discussed earlier. Let me show you NWBC. So this will be our last topic in process modeling, that parallel workflow scenario. After that, we'll get into another new topic called data quality. So there we can discuss more other stuff over there. Okay. So now here, if you remember, when I'm creating a business partner, I'm getting some error. No change request types available. Yeah. Okay. You can go to search business partner. Yeah. So if I try to create a new business partner, right, I'm getting this error message. No change request type available for business activity. Okay. So what does this mean is we know to create this master data, there should be at least one change request type should be configured. Okay. So system is not able to find any valid change request types. Okay. So that we can look at here as well. Okay. If you go to the change request type configurations, create change request type. Okay. So I'll go to display mode. Look at this data model. Okay. Okay. Only these CR types are there for BP data model. Okay. But here it is giving that error message saying that for this particular business activity. Here, what is a business activity? When you click on this create, the business activity is BP create. That is a business activity. Okay. So that means basically, if you look at MDG IMG, the business activities. With that business activity, there is no change request type available. That's what it says. Okay, so if you go to the business activity.
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results, providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, you are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
Create business activity. If you go to this create business activity for BP, okay, so create business partner. Okay, so for this one, this is the business activity create, right? So basically system says there is no business activity with this business CR types with this business activity. Okay, so usually for material master, we didn't get that error because for material master, there is a standard CR type is already available. You see here, MAT, when I MAT L01. Okay, so this is the business activity. With this business activity, MAT L01 is the CR type that is already available for material master. Okay, so I mean this one. So when I try to create a material, there is a standard CR type is also you see here. Okay, so when you click on select this one, these are the two Z which we created, but in the standard itself there is one CR type, MAT L01. Okay, so this particular MAT L01 using the business activity, this is the business activity. Okay, so how do you know? You can go to the your change request type configuration, go to MAT L01, check the business activity. Okay, MAT1 is there. So this is a business activity, MAT1 is there. But see, so this is the out of box CR type. So when you install MDG system components, so these are the out of box from standard SAP provides these CR types. Okay, other ones we can create our Z and Y, whatever the custom CR types that we can create. Now, why I'm explaining this one is because these change request types. So whenever you get a fresh MDG system, SAP provides these out of box CR types to you as a reference, just like how it provided for material master, MAT L01, right? Like for create, for change, for delete, for all the different type of business activities, see, SAP provides the out of box CR types. Okay, but those by default, it won't come and show it to you. Okay, there is something called BC set concept. Okay, BC set. Did you heard about this one earlier? BC set. BC means business configuration. Okay, what SAP do is they actually configure all the out of box content, all these configurations in terms of BC set, and they provide the BC set. Now you need to activate this BC set. Then under this configuration, SAP might be providing some CR types, some other all different sort of configurations. Okay, so this BC set not only for MDG or anything, for for every object, for it's not, I mean to say for in every module, SAP provides the standard configuration through these BC sets. So in MDG also SAP provided these BC sets. So this BC set is activated for material master, but for our other BP and everything, we haven't activated this BC set. So now we will see how to activate, where to find these BC sets. Okay, so if you go under the same MDG IMG, okay, so here you can see there is a general settings where we are discussing all this data model, UI modeling, process modeling. Okay, but along with that one, there is some configuration nodes which are specific to each object. Central governance for material. Okay, so when you expand this, here you have the BC sets. Okay, so import predefined change request types, out of box CR types. Okay, for this is the base BC set. After for mass processing, for SAP Fury, SAP provided some BC set. For lean classification, likewise SAP provided different CR types. Okay, now these are activated for material master. Now we will see for BP how to do that one. Okay, so open this BP. Okay, here configure predefined change request types. Okay, so you can see these are the two nodes are there. Now what you need to do is just click on this documentation button. Okay, it will show you the BC set name in the down. Okay, so this is the BC set. You can choose. So here it shows for different versions, 2022, 2021. So it shows the different versions, right? So you can take the latest one. Okay, so this is the name of your BC set. So you can click on this one. It will directly take you to a T code called SCPR20. So always the BC sets we activate in this particular T code. SCPR20 is the T code to activate your BC sets for any object, for any module, MMBP or any module, not only for MDG. So this is the common T code in wherever you wanted to import some standard configuration. If you know the BC set name, you can go to SCPR and import that. But in MDG, the good thing is, you no need to remember the BC set name. If you open the documentation, automatically it has that latest that hyperlink. When you click on that hyperlink, it will directly take you to that CP20 T code by defaulting your BC set. Okay. Now all you need to do is just click on this activate button. So with this one, what happens is, under this BC set, different type of CR types are already available for create, for change, for block, for business partner object. So those things will get added to your the CR type configuration. Okay. So you can capture under transport and move it till production. Okay. Now here, easiest way is there is something called export mode. Okay. If there are any warnings are there, it will ignore and it will try to activate everything. So I just choose this export mode and click on OK. Okay. So your BC set got activated now. So likewise, I go back. Okay. So likewise, you can ignore the other 2022, 2021. So likewise, you have another CR types that for Fury applications. So you have similarly, if you go to supplier master, there also you have predefined CR types. Okay. So like for vendor, for customer. So for every object, you have the predefined CR type BC sets. Those BC sets you need to activate so that those configuration will come and get added. Okay. So let me go to your change request type configuration. Change request, create CR type, search with BP. Okay. Now see all these got added. BP1, P1, create customer. So BP1, P2, BP2, P1. So likewise, it created for different scenarios, for block, for mark, for delete. So different CR types it got created. Okay. Now if I go to my business partner creation screen, so that's how, like, coming to create your master data, you need a CR type. Without CR type, you cannot create the master data, right? So now the change request types are available. So now when I click on create new, I got two CR types for create scenario. You can choose either of this and you can click on OK. It will take you to the BP creation screen. Okay. So now you can create the BP with all these different, it is similar to the same OVP application we saw for material master. Okay. So is this clear? What is that BC set concept and how to bring the change request types, the out of box CR types into this configuration? How to import those configuration into the standard out of box CR types into your MDG. So in this data quality topic, we'll be discussing how to configure the search applications, how to configure duplicate check, how to create validations rules using baddies, BRF applications. So those stuff we can discuss over here in this data quality topic. Okay.
Regarding the dynamic agent service, when we assign to dynamic agent, it will select the entries based on what we gave, right, in the coding level.
Yes.
So it will not fetch the values from the user agent table, right?
Yes. Yes.
So after the baddie only, if the service is not maintained, the baddie will not recur, and it will fetch the values from the BRF plus table.
Yeah, if you don't maintain the service name, the dynamic agent service name against that row, right? So let me show you what I'm trying to say. If this is not maintained, then it will go to this one. If this is maintained, it will call that particular bad implementation. Okay.
So at the time of this bad trigger, that the user agent decision table values are not there in the CT agent group, right?
No.
So what we gave in the coding level only, it will select the next.
Yes.
Approved. Yeah.
Yes. It will determine the agents approvers list.
Yeah.
That is the case. How that exclusion logic will work?
Which logic?
As one of the doubt is like when the requester is also part of approver, some role. Okay, so then how this will work? Because if the CT is having a blank value.
No. Here, what we do is inside this particular body, this approver, what is the approver role or something, right? So from that role, I will get how many users are assigned to this role. Okay. Let's say 5 users are assigned to that role. Okay. Now in this 5 users, that requester, I need to exclude that person, right? That means in this body that return, I need to fill the data that is with the remaining 4 users.
Okay, understood. Then that role should be read from the body implementation itself, right? How many users were assigned for that particular role? So that
Exactly.
okay.
You need to keep that role somewhere, probably maybe in any Z table or some ZTVRC variable, and read from there, and you can exclude.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.